right now, our organization Torch, the Torch Center in Houston, Texas, the glorious Torch Center in which I am sitting right now, recording this for you. We are hosting our annual fundraiser at givetorch.org. That's the website for the fundraiser. Every donation is doubled. You can find the link in the description of the podcast. Click it, make a donation, make a generous donation, givetorch.org, and support our great, fantastic, splendid organization in 2025. I had a conversation with my colleague, and he told me that every year when you have the fundraiser, so you make an appeal, a pitch before the podcast, but they're way too long. Trim it down, shorten it a bit. A bit of brevity is called for. Just give them a link, givetorch.org, and call it a day and let them go to the podcast. But I think it's important for me to tell you why I'm asking you for your support. I don't want to inconvenience you. So if you have already made a donation, first of all, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate your support. But if you have made a donation at givetorch.org, then you could just skip ahead, fast forward, and get to the actual content of the podcast. But if you have not, please listen as I make my appeal. Our organization, Torch, we're a nonprofit. We don't charge money. We don't have membership or membership. We don't charge for our classes, for the facility, the Torch Center. The podcasts are not behind a paywall. And the only way, let me repeat that, the only way that we can continue doing our sacred work of connecting Jews and Judaism, of being a beacon of Torah throughout the world, it's only if we fundraise. We have to do this. There's no other option. When I went to rabbi school, this was not part of the curriculum, but it is part of the job. If we succeed in getting your support, givetorch.org, we can continue our work. If not, well, I guess I'll have to get a real job. Last year, one of my friends told me, he said, Rabbi, if you fail to make your fundraising goals, I'll hire you as a paralegal in my law office. And I really appreciated that because I thought that would be maybe something that I could do. I don't think I'm cut out for manual labor, a mechanic or a carpenter. It's just not for me. Well, maybe I could repurpose my podcasting studio here in the Torch Center. Maybe I could do voiceovers. But I feel like that's going away with AI. Sell mortgages in this economy? I think it would have to be sales of some sort, but maybe the paralegal, maybe that's a good idea. I don't know what I would do if Torch shuttered, but I really hope that we will not have to come to that. I really hope that you're going to click the link, givetorch.org, and make a contribution, a generous contribution that will be magically doubled and will ensure that our organization, the Torch Center, and all these fantastic podcasts will continue to flourish in 2025. Our organization has a philosophy to not try to fundraise every year, to not make appeals once a month, and to do dinners or Chinese auctions or all sorts of gimmicks to fundraise. We try to compress all of our fundraising into one campaign. It takes a week, maybe a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, but we try to get everyone to pitch in. All of our friends, all of our listeners, all of our past donors, everyone to contribute, give their annual gift to Torch, do what you can do, support our great work. And this is happening right now. So again, I'm asking for your friendship and your support and your partnership. Visit givetorch.org. Every donation is doubled. Give what you can give and help make this campaign a success. So I'll ask you to pause the button, hit pause on the recording, visit givetorch.org and give what you can give to support the great work of Torch and the podcast. Okay, I'll wait. I'm not going anywhere. Hit the pause button. Take your time. Okay. If you listened and made a donation, then now you can fast forward until the podcast. But if you haven't been convinced, I want to try to persuade you. And I say this, try to be as sincere as possible. I don't like to tout my successes or the successes of my colleagues. But I really think that we're doing a fantastic job in our mission. And it's the most important mission of them all, to be ambassadors for God, to spread his word, to spread his holy Torah in the world. And that's what we do. My colleagues and I in the Torch Center, we're laser focused on trying to do this, of course, locally in Houston, but really all over the world, globally, with our digital offerings. I'm asking you for your partnership. We cannot do this alone. We need partners. Anyone who contributes, anyone who donates right now, givetorch.org, is a partner. Congratulations. You can make partner. Your parents will be proud. And there are perks to this partnership. Every week, for example, we have a new Parsha podcast. We just finished the Ethics podcast. Now we're re-releasing it in 2025. We have the incredible series of Torah 101. This is an unparalleled Torah enterprise. All over the world, people are listening and learning and enjoying and being inspired and uplifted alongside all of us. And I'm sitting here in the Torch Center, and we work day in and day out, week in and week out, to prepare exquisite, incredible, compelling, intriguing, valuable, relevant content to help disseminate, with the help of the Almighty, the will of the Almighty in the world. And how do we do this? We have an army of partners. All of the donors are part of this incredible venture. They have a slice of the action. I think it's a fantastic deal. This is what I'm offering. This is what we're offering here at the Torch Center. Give what you can give. And if you give a lot, that's amazing. Every donation is matched. And if you give a little, we love and we cherish, and we're privileged to have your support. As long as you give what you can give, you're a partner. GiveTorch.org. Every donation's doubled. And I like to say this publicly and on the record so everyone can know the merits that we have, and I hope we have merits in heaven for spreading Torah, for teaching, for enriching people's spiritual lives, in doing something to feed the soul. That merit, I hereby declare, everyone who contributes is part of it. The partners are included. And I like to say this because I think it's very persuasive. Someone who doesn't contribute, first of all, if someone doesn't contribute, that's fine. We love them nonetheless, but they're not partners. And that's so unfortunate. And they wouldn't get the merits. And that's so unfortunate. The Torch fundraiser, it's at givetorch.org. This is the only annual fundraiser. And this is an opportunity that I really hope you'll partake in. I want your partnership. I want your friendship. I want your continued listenership. We love all the listeners, even those who don't give, but only those who give at givetorch.org. Only they are partners and get a portion in our merit. Everyone else, of course, gets a portion in their own study, and that's nothing to sneeze at. But the merit of all the listeners all over the world are only for those who contribute. The bang for your buck is fantastic. The amount of people who are learning and whose lives are being changed as a result of what we're doing here in the Torch Center, it's staggering. And I know you may be thinking, I want to skip ahead to get to the content of the podcast. But I'm urging you, please press pause, visit the fundraiser, givetorch.org. The link is in the description, and give what you can give and join this incredible team, join this incredible partnership. Please, God, if we succeed in reaching our goal, I pledge I'll do what I can with the help of the Almighty to continue doing this work for another year. I hope I won't need to learn how to be a paralegal, or what was the other idea we had? To sell mortgages, to sell cabinets. I really hope it won't come to that. I really hope you'll take the time to pause the podcast and give some love at givetorch.org. I think it's a good investment. Give me a boost. Partner with us. I need you to give what you can give at givetorch.org. I know it's a hassle. I know it's hard, but it's worth it, and you won't regret it. Thank you so much for hearing me out. Thank you for pushing yourself to give what you can give at givetorch.org. Thank you for another amazing year. Please, that'll be a fantastic year for all of us. And of course, for our brethren, especially those in Israel. Thank you for your friendship and your partnership and your support. And my email address is rabbiwolbe@gmail.com. And the address for the fundraiser, you remember it by now, givetorch.org. The pitch is over. Now it's time for the podcast. Today, we're going to learn how to overcome the biggest hump preventing us from achieving great things. We're going to pinpoint the exact problem that everyone who wants to achieve great things will encounter. We're going to find precisely what is that obstacle. Where exactly does that obstacle lie? That obstacle that prevents us, that hinders us from achieving transformational greatness. Now, what I'm going to tell you is something which I assume that you heard already once before, at least the subject. But if you had the great privilege of ever spending time in one of the great yeshivos, you heard it hundreds of times. It's arguably the most famous comment in Rashi, in the whole Torah. And it's one of those things that you hear it so often, or I heard it so often, you fail to appreciate just how powerful it is. It becomes platitudinal, a cliche. And what I want to do is kind of infuse new insight and understanding into this comment in Rashi and learn foundational ideas that will help us achieve transformational greatness. In chapter 19 of the book of Exodus, the nation is around the mountain, Mount Sinai, and they're about to receive the Torah. They're about to experience national revelation, national prophecy. And Moshe in chapter 19 is shuttling back and forth, shuttle diplomacy, going back to God, to the nation, to God, negotiating the terms of this covenant. And the verse tells us, Moshe goes up to the mountain, and God tells Moshe, so shall you speak to the house of Jacob, and so shall you say over to the sons of Israel. What's the message? The message is, quote, you saw, the nation saw, you saw that what I did to Egypt, and I lifted you from them on the wings of eagles, and I brought you to me. And this is the critical sentence. And now, im shamoa tishmu, if you shall listen, if listen, you shall listen, bekoli, in my voice, and you shall guard and observe my covenant, you will be to me a cherished nation from all the nations, for to me is the land. That's the verse. I translated it the way I translate it. It's not precise. You may find a different translation in your book, but that's the basic idea at the beginning of chapter 19 of the book of Exodus. Now, in this verse, Rashi says, this is the iconic Rashi, if you now accept the Torah, it will be sweet and pleasant for you going forward, because all beginnings are difficult. We're at the beginning, the nascent stage, the inception of the nation's relationship with the Almighty and His Torah, and they're going to accept the Torah. And the Almighty tells Moshe, tell the people that all beginnings are difficult, are tough, but if you accept it now when it's difficult, then in the future, from now on, it will be sweet. This idea is what I heard certainly scores of times. Certainly 407 times. Certainly in the course of my days in yeshiva, this idea, kol haschalos kashos, all beginnings are difficult. You want to achieve something great? You want to achieve something fantastic? All beginnings are rough or difficult. But once you accept, im tekablu, if you accept it, then it becomes sweet thereafter. But all beginnings are difficult. Now, this is the regular kit of every speech you hear in yeshiva. You want to achieve something great. You want to make something of yourself. You're right now at the beginning. This is the foundation of your legacy, of the edifice you want to build. It's difficult, but once you accept, it becomes sweet from then on. And they even add, suppose it's not difficult. You started and it's not difficult. It's easy. Rashi says very carefully, very clearly, kol haschalos kashos, all beginnings are difficult. If it's not difficult yet, you haven't started. It has to be. There's no way for any journey to not have that point where it's the beginning and it's difficult. So we started off with a pretty audacious claim. We're going to pinpoint exactly where the obstacle is of any transformational greatness. Now we know, Rashi tells us, the point of difficulty is at the beginning. And if you accept it, it'll get sweet from then on, for all beginnings are difficult. Now, if you look at Rashi very carefully, the two sides don't seem to be exactly opposing to each other. Rashi talks about difficult. It's hard, it's difficult. What's the opposite of difficult? Well, the opposite is easy, right? It's hard or it's easy. Rashi doesn't say that. Rashi says if you accept, now it will be sweet for you going forward. The opposite of sweet is maybe bitter. The beginning is difficult. Once you accept, it's sweet. It's not bitter versus sweet. It's not difficult versus easy. It's difficult versus sweet. What he's portraying for us, what he's weaving for us, is a journey that starts off as difficult and not sweet. And after the acceptance at the beginning, it becomes sweet. It may, in fact, remain difficult. It may still be a challenge, but it's a challenge that you want to embark upon, you want to undertake, because it is sweet. This is the Rashi, chapter 19 of the book of Exodus, the one that we heard many times in the course of our career in yeshiva. And anytime someone's like, well, it's so hard. The beginning is supposed to be hard. This is all built in. And Rashi says very carefully, very clearly, kol haschalos kashos, all beginnings are difficult. What I wanted to do today is to understand why. To pinpoint precisely why is the beginning difficult. It's difficult and it's not sweet. Maybe it's even a bit bitter. Why is the challenge front-loaded? Why does it start off as being difficult and not sweet, and only then it gets sweeter? It may still be difficult, but to understand the mechanism here, I think it'll go a long way to help us embark upon great journeys of our own. And I want to suggest two different, in my opinion, phenomenal approaches to understand this idea. If we go back to the actual text in Rashi, Rashi seems to conflate two things. Im ata tekablu, if now you accept. You accept the Torah, but also anything that you accept, any undertaking that you accept. Then it'll be sweet from you from then on. So the acceptance, you accept it. Before you accept it, maybe it's hard, but once you accept it, then it's sweet. Kol haschalos kashos, because all beginnings are difficult. Rashi's conflating the acceptance, the commitment, with the initiation, with the commencement, with the beginning. This is going to reveal to us the first idea. Why are beginnings hard? Because beginnings of any journey mark the point of acceptance. You accept something, you undertake something, that is very difficult, as we shall explain. We are all hardwired to reject anything that's not us. When something is alien, there's a foreign body, there's an infiltrator, there's an enemy incursion. We have a built-in immune system to push back against intruders. The body. The body is designed with this incredible system, the immune system. It knows of all the trillions of different things inside of you. These are mine. These are all, there's like a hash. They're all identified. This is good. This is our team. This is not an enemy infiltrator. And it has the sense to pick up, well, there's something that's foreign. There's an outsider. And it could pinpoint and identify exactly the infiltration of something foreign, and it pushes it away. And it pushes it away whether it's good or bad. The immune system has a hyper-acute rejection of foreign entities, be they good or bad. One of the biggest problems with the administration of medicine, it's not necessarily to discover a way to address the pathology of the illness, but how to address the fact that the body has this built-in natural rejection and an instinct to repel anything that is foreign. You introduce something new to the body's like, this should not be here. This does not belong. And it's hardwired to push it away. So if there's a virus, there's a bug, anything that enters the body, there's a whole system that converges on that. It's like, well, is this me? Is this part of me? Is this one of the trillions of parts that's me? Is it safe or is it foreign? And when it identifies an intruder, the body pounces and pushes it away violently. The biggest problem that people face with transplants is this. The body, even though the body needs to have this new organ or else there's danger of death, doesn't matter. This is not me. This is an outsider. There's something here that doesn't belong. And the body will repulse it very vigorously. We have here the preparation for the Sinai revelation. This is not some sort of knowledge that we're going to learn in our mind, some sort of ideas that we're going to have in our head, these abstract concepts. It's a fundamental change in who we are. We're absorbing the Almighty's Torah into every piece of our existence. And the Almighty tells Moshe, tell the people, it's difficult because you will reject it because it's strange, it's alien, it's foreign. When you encounter something that comes internal to you, and it's not you, at least not yet, it's alien, it's foreign, you have an instinct to push it away. Torah is the opposite of whatever pre-existing programming exists within us. You take a human, by default, it's like almost the exact opposite of Torah. So there's this introduction of this whole system that is completely foreign to how you interface with the world. And Moshe's identifying this for the people. God's telling Moshe, go tell the people, this is going to be hard. The beginning is going to be hard because the beginning is the introduction of the foreign reality to the person. What happens, however, once you accept? If you accept, what does it mean to accept? It means to change how you define yourself, to shift your identity, to change the settings in your immune system. You're now a person of Torah. Once you make that switch, the beginning, the acceptance, you're a different person. Now you discover, well, it's sweet. It always was sweet. But when you were a different person, you were an outsider, you viewed the Torah as something which is distant from you. It's not in your mouth, in your heart to do it. It's some sort of foreign idea. It's a foreign body, so to speak, intruding. Before you accepted it, before you committed yourself to it, you did not view that as being synchronized with who you are. You thought it's possible for me to just live a life outside of Torah. After all, I survived till now, right? I can't exist without Torah. It wasn't enmeshed into your identity. That's before Torah. And the beginning, the initiation, it's a decision to change your identity. And that's difficult. The Torah was sweet, is sweet, will always be sweet. But if you're an outsider, it's not you. If it's not you, you push it away. I think what Moshe is doing for us, he's laying out for us a path of accepting the Torah. It starts off, it's difficult. Why? Because it's foreign. It's strange. It's alien. It's not you. And the person, the nation in this case, has to change who they are. They have to accept it. And once they do that, they realize, actually, it was me all along. It is, in fact, completely natural. Now, Rashi does not say that it becomes easy. No, it was difficult, it remains difficult. but it's sweet. It's sweet because this is right. This is proper. This fits. It makes sense. It clicks. Now, Rashi says this in the context of accepting the Torah. Rashi also tells us all beginnings are difficult. There's this process in every undertaking. I would imagine that if someone's an outsider and maybe they never observe Shabbos in their life, they may find the notion of observing Shabbos as unfathomably difficult. It's not me. It's strange. And compare that to an insider, to someone who's been doing it their whole life, and it's pleasant, it's enjoyable, it's right, it's natural. Do you really eat kosher? You never cheat? What if you're hungry and there's no kosher restaurant within 100 miles of you? Do you really observe all those draconian laws and rules? The outsider thinks it's impossible. The insiders know it's actually very sweet and pleasant. If it's foreign, if it's strange, if it's alien, well, that's how you view it. It's not you. For someone else who has accepted, it's sweet. It's natural. They wouldn't trade it for anything else in the world. This framework is true even outside of Torah. Let's take marriage, something which our society is not that good at, okay? They're just not that good at it. They don't succeed in it in very high numbers. I'll tell you why. The definition of marriage is to allow a foreigner into your life. It's a transplant. And your body and your whole identity, every fabric of your being is pushing away. The calculus of marriage is the fusion of two different people into one. The Torah itself says that. A man shall leave his father and his mother, shall cleave to his wife, and become one flesh. And the reason why it's hard is because it triggers an immune response. Wait a minute, there's an outsider here. And you push that away. Now there's two ways to solve it. You could have a marriage that is on paper, by the law. They are married and filed jointly their taxes, but they're still two different people. We would say that's not a marriage. Yes, it technically is, but by the definition of taking two people and cleaving them together to become like one flesh, that has not happened here. So some people, they're like, okay, this is just not for me. They're out. Others, we'll stay together for the kids or the tax benefits, or to avoid the hassle. That also is a failed marriage. And the reason why there's so many failed marriages is because people don't know what it takes. The beginnings are hard. Why? Because there's an immune response that you're going to trigger. And unless you know that and are aware of that and are ready to pay the price to go through that period of initiation, the beginning, which is hard, you won't do it. The immune system will reject the transplant. And the Torah, of course, helps us prepare for that. We have a mitzvah to spend a year of acclimation, where the man is commanded, v'simaches ishto, he should delight and gladden his wife that he has chosen. That is a whole year of difficulty designed to change your identity. I just told you, this is like pearls, like why marriages fail. This short Rashi, identifies it for us. The beginning of the initiation is hard. Why is it hard? Because your body, your identity, your essence pushes away at it. Because it's a change in who you are. And changes in who you are resisted until you accept. And when you accept, you change who you are. You alter your identity. And then you realize it was sweet all along. Anytime someone wants to grow, to change, to develop, to refine themselves, to upgrade themselves, every journey starts off with difficulty. Even if someone's on a certain path to level up, it's also a journey of its own, and it also demands a certain change of identity. I didn't do this yesterday. I'm doing it today. Well, it's not me. I wouldn't do that. I'm not the kind of person that does X, Y, or Z. I'm not the kind of person who is hospitable or kind, caring, charitable, dedicated, understanding. I'm not the kind of person who takes responsibility for other people. I'm not the kind of person who's like trying to improve my character, to perfect and refine myself. Oh, I'm definitely not the kind of person that wants to study and master all of Torah. It's just, that's not me. I'm not going to study the Talmud, the Mishnah, the Torah, the Midrash. I'm not the kind of person that really takes life seriously to try to accomplish and actualize my potential. If you want to do any of those things, you have to say, no, I'm accepting. I am that kind of person. You make a decision to say, I am that kind of person. That commitment, that acceptance, and suddenly there's no more pushback. You've upgraded your immune system. The innate immune-like rejection now welcomes the new you. It was sweet all along. You didn't know. Now you know. The idea that we could do a lot more, that we're not living up to all the potential that we have, that's a painful thought, and it's a foreign thought. And it may trigger an immune response. One of the reasons why I think it's important when you want to do a big change to just do it once, try it once. Don't change yourself forever. Just change yourself for one day. You're trying to persuade yourself that you're capable of being a different person. So you do one thing that's difficult. You don't say, I'm going to do it every day. I'm going to do it once. And you've just discovered, wow, I truly was capable of that. I have unearthed and discovered hitherto unknown capabilities. That self-perception that I had, that limiting self-perception that I had, has now been shattered. And you know what? If you do it one day, maybe you could do it for a week. And maybe you could actually accept to say, I'm doing this forever. I'm a different person. Doing something once can reshape your self-perception. Which is why in the great yeshivos, there's a ubiquitous practice to get young yeshiva students to give a lecture. Not just any type of lecture, not just a small little discussion amongst friends. Give a big lecture, as if you're the Rosh Yeshiva. What are you? You barely have some peach fuzz on your cheeks. You give a lecture like a Rosh Yeshiva? Who do you think you are? It's a brief opportunity, a little window to see into a different version of yourself. It's a way to kind of test drive this change in identity. If you force yourself to do something that you couldn't have imagined that you could do every day, but you could do it once, well, now you've already changed your perception. And that will help making that change, that acceptance, that initiation. It's a little window outside that little box that we're living in, outside the cocoon of mediocrity that we maybe grew so comfortable in. Rashi tells us the beginnings are difficult. That small box of self-perception is made out of concrete, reinforced by rebar, and apparently impenetrable bunker. It's difficult because you need a bunker buster, a Moab, to shatter that perception. I'm very confident in saying that there's a lot more that we all can do. But we have to realize that this is us. Once you make that change, that's the difficulty. Greatness is always sweet and it always feels natural. But that mindset, that limiting perspective that we have on ourselves, that is what is holding us back. We have to remember, it's very helpful to remember, who gave us Torah? Torah was given to us by the Almighty God who created us. There's absolutely nothing in there that violates our nature. Other religions have that because they're man-made. The Almighty gave us something which is sweet, which is natural. We don't know it though. We don't realize that we will connect with it very naturally. We have to remember that we come from Abraham. He's our guiding light. And Scripture describes him as Ivri. And the commentaries tell us he's like on the other side of the river. There's a river separating Abraham and all his contemporaries. He says, I'm the kind of person that's on this side of the river. And they're all like, no, we're on the other side of the river. And you are foreign alien to us. And I bet that when Abraham crossed that river, it was the most terrifying river, swarming with crocodiles. It was very difficult to do it because he started life on one side of the river with everyone else. And the idea of another person, of any person, existing on the other side of the river was unimaginable. The beginning is difficult because we all start on one side of a river, and the other side, that's where our greatness is. That's where our destiny lies. And once you get there, once you cross over the river, you change your perspective, you realize it's actually kind of sweet and natural. I always think it's helpful to think about, what you can already do that other people think is magic. If you see someone like who's technical, right? They're technical. And they just do on the computer, they just do stuff, boom, and they got it, it's all fixed. And like, why can't I print like a printer, right? How come I can't just figure out how to print? And someone comes to just type stuff and boom, it starts printing. You're like, wow, this person is a wizard. And for them, it's just totally natural. There's greatness that we have accomplished already that other people will look at it because it's foreign, it's alien to them. And we're like a Martian to them. They cannot imagine that we are the same species that they are. Because they're on the other side of the river. They're foreigners to what we've accomplished. But we all have further greatness to achieve. And to do that, we need to accept it. And to accept it is hard. And it's hard because it's not us. At least not us until we make that acceptance. This is the first interpretation that I wanted to suggest on this Rashi. But there's another one. Another reason why the beginning is difficult. Why is it so hard at the beginning? Why is it all front-loaded? As you know, the building of the tabernacle of the Mishkan takes up much of the book of Exodus. They have to assemble all the different ingredients, different parts of the tabernacle, and have to build it, the different vessels and the vestments and different parts of the tabernacle and the garments of the high priest, the walls and all the different parts, the table and the menorah and the inner altar, outer altar, of course the ark. When it's finally done, there's a very curious verse. Moshe did not actually build it. He commissioned Bezalel, and Bezalel had his lieutenant, and all the people who volunteered. Moshe did not actually build it. And the verse tells us, this is in chapter 39, verse 33 of Exodus, they brought the Mishkan to Moshe. It was all ready to be assembled, and they brought it to him. All the parts of the Mishkan. Why didn't they just assemble it? It was ready to be assembled, but they didn't assemble it. Why not? So Rashi tells us they couldn't do it. They tried to lift up the beams, but the beams were like 20 feet tall and made out of wood. They couldn't do it. There wasn't enough physical strength, Rashi tells us, to take the beams that were horizontal to make them vertical. So he said, Moshe, we can't do it. We tried, we can't. And Moshe, he was able to do it. But Rashi explains, how did Moshe do it? Moshe goes over to God and says, is this doable by a human? Can a human actually build, erect, construct the tabernacle in which God will dwell? Can't do it. So God tells Moshe, this is all recorded in the Rashi, you just pretend with your hands that you are lifting up the beams. But I'm going to do the actual lifting. And that's why the verse says that the temple was built. Not that Moshe, like the passive voice. Not that Moshe built it. Moshe erected it. It was erected. Why? Because actually God did it. Moshe only, he put his hands as if he was doing it, but God actually did the heavy lifting. Now, this is a fascinating backstory in the erection of the Mishkan. The beams were all ready to go, and the people were commissioned to do it. And they tried to do it, and they couldn't do it. And Moshe's like, I can't do it either. How could this be done by any human? Moshe tells God. God says, no, you do pretend like you're doing it, and I'll actually lift it for you. That's what Rashi tells us, and now we understand how it was done. Very interesting. But here's the problem. Once the Mishkan was, in fact, assembled, they would very frequently disassemble it, package it up, travel to wherever the cloud takes them, and reassemble it. So what happened subsequently? They went to dozens more places, more stations, before they arrived to crossing over the Jordan. And they're always taking the tabernacle, which is disassembled, they disassemble it, they travel, and they reassemble it. Did Moshe have to install it every time? So the sources say something unbelievable. The beams were very, very heavy, but they weren't so physically heavy. They were spiritually heavy. You think about a beam, let's say it's 20 feet tall, and it's, 2 or 3 feet wide. It's pretty heavy. But if you get enough people, they could probably do it. They could probably lift it up and position it vertically. Moshe tells God, how can any human do it? This is not something which humans can do. Why not? Why is this so difficult for humans to do? So the Zohar says something unbelievable. When God established a domicile, a residence for God in this world, there were certain malevolent spiritual forces that were greatly reduced and diminished. These forces, we call them the Satan. It has other names in the Kabbalistic literature. The force of the evil inclination, the force of the anti-God, so to speak, in this world. The Yetzer Hara is called the foreign God, the false God. That was almost banished from the world. Once the Almighty says there's a place here, there's a point where I'm going to reside in this world, in this physical world, the evil inclination, the Satan, the other side, was basically banished from the whole world. And there's very dramatic descriptions as to what happened, all the different Kabbalistic terms, we don't even know what these things mean, but all the different the retinue, so to speak, of this angel, where it went and where it traveled, and a very dramatic description as to what happened to it. But it tells us that there was a change here that happened. There was a world where there was no tabernacle. There was no domicile for God in the world. And that changed. It changed with the erection of the Mishkan. That change, that 0 to 1 change, spelled the doom of the Satan, the other side, that malevolent spiritual force. And that force resisted and fought like a caged lion to try to stop it. That force embedded itself. I'm not going to let you lift up this beam. And everyone tried, and no matter how much they tried, they couldn't do it. Because there was an angel fighting against you. You've seen those videos where they have a tug of war, and it's like bodybuilders, a whole bunch of them, and there's like one tiger on the other side holding up the rope. You can't do it. This is not a job for humans. Imagine an angel, not just any angel, a very powerful angel. And the angel is insisting this will not be built, because if it's built, I'm done. And Moshe says, this is not a job to be done by humans. Which human could do this? And God says, you're right. No human could do it. I have to do it. But I want you to pretend. Pretend that you're doing it. You may move your hands as if you're actually doing it. I'll do it, but you'll pretend. This happens on a miniature scale. Anytime we accomplish something great in the world, we're also reducing the power of the other side. We're reducing the power of the evil inclination. We're reducing the power of the Satan, of the Sitra Achra. And they don't like losing. And they resist. And they take the beams and make them insanely, artificially heavy. They make the job one that's not possible to be done by a human. Any initiative that you want to undertake that's a good initiative, that amounts to the augmentation of holiness in the world and the reduction of the other side. And they don't like to lose. And all those forces will gather together and artificially make those beams very, very heavy. And thus, it's hard. Why is it hard? Because it's not a job for a human. Well, if it's not a job for a human, how does it get done? It gets done because the human pretends to do it. And God says, I'll do the actual heavy lifting. And what happens once it's done? Once the tabernacle has been erected and the Sitra Achra, the other side, has been banished, well, now the beams are just easily liftable. Once it was done once, well, that force has been reduced. It's been defeated. The beams are now very much liftable, maneuverable, erectable by humans. There's another example of this phenomenon. When Abraham wanted to circumcise, most people don't know this midrash. God tells Abraham, I want you to circumcise. One of the names of the evil inclination is the foreskin. So if you're cutting that off, you're in effect saying, I'm getting rid of this evil inclination, who's also known as the Satan, also known as the angel of death. That other side, that other force is being sliced off and removed. You think that was just a simple procedure? Here you have a baby in the hospital. Would you like a circumcision? They do it, no problem. The Midrash says, every single person who ever tried to have a circumcision before Abraham died. There was no way to survive it. Why? Because the Satan says, this I'm not giving up. They will all bleed out. They all died. It was not doable by a human. And Abraham's told to do it. And that means to die. And he's like, tells God, this is not a job that I could do. And God says, no, you're not going to do this by yourself. I'm going to do it with you. And the verse tells us in the book of Nehemiah, when it describes Abraham's circumcision, you, Hashem Elokim, you chose Abraham. V'charos imo habris. And you made a pact of a covenant with him. Says the Midrash, with him was done together. This circumcision was done not just by Abraham, it was Abraham and God. Moshe was lifting the beams, but really it was God doing it. Abraham he was using the scalpel, but really it was God who was doing it. It was a joint effort. Like Moshe, the Satan said, this will not happen. And Moshe and Abraham said, okay, it won't happen. It's very difficult. But God will make sure that it does happen. The first time you do something, you are in effect declaring that you want to amplify the forces of holiness and goodness and righteousness in the world, and you want to reduce, to mitigate, to limit, to lessen, to diminish the forces of the Yetzer Hara, of the evil inclination, of that aforementioned foreskin that we talked about. And that will result in a ferocious resistance. A last desperate attempt by the Satan to stop you. The Satan does not like to see his empire crumbling. And is going to lash out like a wounded, caged lion with a last feeble attempt to maintain its little fiefdom. It's hard. It's hard because when you start, the first time you do something, it's not just to do the mitzvah, to do the act, to undertake this new you. It's a decision to say, I want to amplify goodness in the world, reduce the forces that oppose that in the world. And that cannot be done by humans. That's hard. But when you undertake it, like Moshe, like Abraham, God holds your hand. Those beams are artificially heavy. You're installing it, you're changing the whole world. That will be resisted by the negative forces. The fundamental breakthrough, the first time, it's hard. It's hard. But if you say, I accept, if you accept, it's sweet. It's sweet because God says, I'm going to join you in this venture. However you want to understand this comment in Rashi, there's something very powerful here. When you have a vision of what you can become, of what you can accomplish, you have to realize that anything worth undertaking is not easy. If it's easy, it's not change. It's not going to change you. It won't change the world. We do a lot of things that are easy. We don't always have to fight for new territory. Not everything should be hard. We should have some things in the bank, things that are secure. You want to undertake something new? It's going to be hard. Where is the difficulty? It's always at the beginning. The obstacle is always at the beginning. Why is it at the beginning? Either it's from you, it's not me. And you're going to face that resistance, that immune response will be triggered. And the acceptance is saying, this is me. And it is natural. I'm going to cross the river. I want you on the other side of the river. Well, you're there. It's natural. Alternatively, the reason why it's difficult at the beginning is because of the forces that you are trying to banish from the world. It's possible, by the way, that both of these are just two halves of one whole. You're banishing those forces from within you. When you start off life or any journey, you're adopting something new. But by adopting something new, you are unseating, you're supplanting something which was there previously. And that's the resistance. But the point is, if you accept, God says, I'm going to help you. If you accept, you've changed who you are. You've reclassified what are the things that are acceptable and not acceptable. And once you do that, it won't get easier per se. It'll be doable, but it will be sweet. May we all be so fortunate as to have sweet accomplishments, sweet dreams. We have dreams. We have grand, ambitious dreams. Let them be sweet. Let us fulfill them and let us understand where the difficulty lies. The difficulty lies at the beginning. All beginnings are difficult, but all great things have a beginning. And we know how to overcome it if you understand that this is where the difficulty lies and why it lies over there. And you know what you need to do to overcome it. You are armed with what you need to do. To do it, it's not easy, it's hard. But it's not only hard, it's also sweet. I appreciate your attention. My email address is rabbiwolbe@gmail.com. I look forward to your questions, your comments, and your feedback.